Well, hello there. So glad we have the opportunity to continue our study into the miracles of Jesus. And we're going to come really in this series today, we're coming to kind of a transition point in the ministry of Jesus. Up until this point, these first several videos have really all been about Jesus's ministry up in Galilee. And so we've had him go over to Samaria once, we've had him go across the Galilee and Sea once to the country of the Gadarenes or the Gerasenes, depending on your translation. But now we're about to see kind of the next evolution in Jesus's ministry, and that's going to be the sending out of his disciples and his apostles to go start spreading the good news throughout the entire country. And so, but before that happens, though, we kind of get a cool little summary that really only takes place in Matthew. And we've talked before that the Gospels are all organized a little bit differently. Matthew is particularly organized thematically. And so he's really more concerned about presenting certain key ideas more so than explicit chronology. That's why you see some variation sometimes between him and Mark and Luke. But at the end of chapter 9 of Matthew, he kind of offers these two brief miracles that serve as kind of a summary of Jesus' ministry in Galilee to this point in time. We're going to take a look at those two miracles, the healing of two blind men and the healing of a demon-possessed mute. And so we're going to find this is only recorded in Matthew. Mark and Luke both kind of end with the story of Jairus and then jump right into Jesus commissioning the apostles, sending them out into the world. And then Luke's going to continue on with sending out the 70. But in Matthew chapter 9, right after we've seen Jairus' daughter and the woman who's been suffering from a hemorrhage healed, Matthew includes two more kind of summary miracles here, starting in verse 27 of chapter 9, after having just healed this and after the news has spread throughout that land. It says, as Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him, crying out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he entered the house, the blind men came up to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" They said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he touched their eyes, saying, "It will be done to you according to your faith." And their eyes were opened. Jesus sternly warned them, see that no one knows about this." But they went out and spread the news about him throughout all that land. As they were going out, a mute, demon-possessed man was brought to him. After the demon was cast out, the mute man spoke, and the crowds were amazed, and were saying, "Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel." But the Pharisees were saying, "He cast out the demons by the ruler of the demons." Jesus was going through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Seeing the people, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." So we have these two miracles that are here, very brief accounts. Matthew is very typically pretty economical with his word choices. And so they're very brief miracles. We don't get a whole lot of account of these people's names, of their background, of what's going on. It's very quick, clear, concise accounts. And it's ultimately because the point of this is less about the specific healing and more about what this represents in a transition point. Really, we're starting to see now with these miracles that people are starting to have a clear depiction of who Jesus is. Note that these two blind men, they follow him, they say, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." That's a really important title. Remember, Jesus, by and large, has been calling himself the Son of Man, which is, in a way, a messianic title coming from Daniel, but it's also kind of a title almost of anonymity, I'm just a guy. But the Son of David is a really heavy messianic term. We know from our study of the book of Samuel, the book of Kings, and the prophets that David's son, his heir, was going to come and he was going to be this messianic figure. He was going to be the one to lead Israel into this new age. He was going to be the one who, from the Israelites' perception, was going to overthrow Rome and was going to restore the physical kingdom, although, as we're going to see, that wasn't what Jesus was here to do. But these men recognize that this is the Messiah. They have faith that he is who they have been looking for. And there's a slight irony, obviously, that it's two blind men who are able to see these things. And Jesus plays off of that imagery a lot, of the idea that the blind can see, but those with sight are blind to what's happening around them. But these two blind men, Jesus asked them kind of the same question he's been asking everybody. Do you have faith? Do you believe that I have the ability to do this? And they say, yes, we believe. And he says, okay, because you believe, you will be healed. And so that's kind of the way that this has been working through Jairus. It's the way it's been working through the one with the hemorrhage, when the way we've seen it done numerous times, is that those with faith are those who are being healed. We then have, again, this fairly typical healing. Jesus then again does this thing we've seen him do several times, which is that see that no one knows about this. Because notice, these guys have already made the connection that he is the son of David. He is the Messiah, this messianic figure. But Jesus, again, is very careful about what that means to people. He doesn't want people to come see the Messiah just because he can do these really cool things, just because he can do these healings. The Messiah is about more than just doing these healings, even as miraculous and incredible they are. And so he tells these guys, like, hey, like, keep this to yourselves. He has compassion on them, but he wants to control what's going on here. But the guys can't help themselves. And we've seen that recurring theme that Jesus would tell people, like, hey, keep this to yourselves. And they're like, we can't. We can see. We've been blind and we can see, and we've been lame and we can walk, and we've been deaf and we can speak. Of course we have to talk about how amazing this Jesus guy is. And so then we see the same thing, this mute, demon-possessed man. And it's interesting because typically there's a very clear distinction between those who are demon-possessed and those who are in need of physical healing. Here it's clear that whatever muteness this guy has, whatever dumbness and deafness he has, it is a direct result of this demon possession. And so he doesn't really heal him, he casts out this demon, and that removes this infirmity that he has. And again, we see this repeated theme that when this guy speaks, the crowds were amazed, but listen to what they say. Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. That's a pretty clear condemnation of the leadership of Israel. And the way we know that is because look who responds in the very next verse is the Pharisees. The religious leaders of Israel are saying, well, this man cast out the demons by the rulers of demons. And we see this is a really common argument of the Pharisees and the scribes that, oh, you know, this guy, the only reason he can cast out demons that we can't is because he's in league with the Lord of the demons. He's working through Beelzebul. And Jesus later on is going to pretty thoroughly debunk that argument that doesn't make sense. But we're seeing that people are starting to recognize that their religious leadership has not led them well. Their religious leadership has not provided the things that they need. And even Jesus makes that comment that after he sees all these people, he's healing them, he's proclaiming the gospel. It says that he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited, like sheep without a shepherd. And so this is one of the biggest problems that Israel has had going back all the way to the deaths of Moses and Joshua, is that Israel has been looking for this kind of leadership. They have been looking for someone to guide them in direct paths. And there have been good kings. I mean, there's been David and Hezekiah and Josiah, and there's been leadership like Ezra and Nehemiah. But overall, the leadership, especially now in this present day, it's not leading Israel back to God. It's leading Israel further and further down this path of hypocrisy and stone-heartedness. That's the exact opposite of what we had seen prophesied of the new kingdom. And so people are starting to realize that this Jesus, he teaches with authority. He performs deeds and miracles that are clearly on the sign of God. He's proclaiming a kingdom that's very different from what the Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes and Essenes and all these political groups have been talking about. And people are starting to notice this growing divide in this place. And so Jesus is seeing this, and he's diagnosing correctly, this is what Israel is lacking. Israel is lacking the spiritual leadership it needs in order to follow after God, in order to see the kingdom of God. And so that's what he's going to start doing. He's going to start providing that leadership, not just in his own person, but he's going to be providing the leadership for when after he's gone, when after he's ascended to the Father, there's still going to be that need for leadership. And so that's going to be the job of these apostles and these early disciples, is to begin that work of forming this institution, this church, that's going to start spreading the word of God all the way to the far corners of the world. And so he's starting already to prepare the kingdom, not just for his death and resurrection, but for what's going to happen after that in preparing these leaders. And so these miracles kind of serve as a summary of what he's doing, that he's seeing compassion, but he's using this compassion, he's seeing these things because there's a lack of spiritual leadership. And he, as the king, is coming to provide that. I hope these things give you some things to think about. I hope this gives you some things to reflect on as we're kind of entering into kind of the next stage of Jesus' ministry. We're going to have one quick video that's going to talk about one of the miracles of John. We're going to kind of shift gears a little bit, and then we're going to start seeing this kind of next stage of Jesus' ministry. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. We love you guys. We appreciate so much your continued zeal for the word, your continued devotion to learning these things, to studying these things. We cannot wait to assemble once again together to study these things in person and continue these good works that we do. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Can't wait to see you again soon.